All right, thank you. This is a research talk. I'm a nerd. We're going to be talking about sort of the stuff that we're doing to try to measure lot vacancy over time. So there's a shout out in the talk this morning to vacant lot greening as a public health intervention. To orient you, sort of starting with a lot that is ungreened, meaning it is actually quite green in its presentation, but lots that are overgrown and unkempt receive an intervention that involves sort of trying to turn them into park-like spaces. And various work that has come before anything we've done, including a randomized trial I'm going to talk about a little bit more, have shown these interventions to be effective in reducing violence and having other positive health effects. And so focusing in on this trial, it took place, the greening took place between April and May of 2013 and studied the difference in violence between the before period and the after period using a randomized design, yay, research methodology. But life is not an intervention. I mean, this is great. Like, but that came out weird with my yay research methodology. What we were looking to do was see this. This happened in 2013. 2013 is 12 years ago. What happened since then? Life is not an intervention. There could be more changes to the lots. Did they stay greened? Which of them didn't? What happens over time? In order to do this, we have to have some way of saying what happened to the lot over time. And that's what this talk is going to be about. So we're trying to look at changes in lots from before this randomized trial through now. And so we used Google Street View as Harvey's study did in a slightly different way, using humans and the computer-assisted neighborhood visual assessment system, or Canvas, this two-screen app with a picture and a bunch of questions. So humans look at the Street View image and then are asked, what is the condition of the sidewalk? And probably the poor box should be checked here based on its sort of broken down amount. And so just to give you a sort of flavor for this, I've shown a bunch of pictures of lots in Philadelphia over time where you can see what it looks like when the intervention happens. This is a lot somewhere in the city. And this is the same lot a little bit later on Street View. So you can tell, hopefully, that things look different. But of course, it's more nuanced than that. And what we're looking for is, this is the intervention, taking it from an apparently uncared for lot to a looking more cared for lot with even, looks like barbecues down there. But there are a lot of other nuances. So this lot did not receive an intervention, but it changed in use to neighbor parking. This lot received an intervention that was this fence. If you come back a few years later, the fence is not in as good repair. We'd like to be able to capture that nuance. The lot greening happens at a time when, if it isn't maintained over time, how does that affect gun violence over time? The stories of lot greening often end up in gardens. We found some cases that did that. I want to point out that the sort of forms of community investment in the lot vary from a deep level of care, someone is clearly planting all of these tomatoes, to sort of benign neglect of the lot is not actively cared for by someone in the community, but in many cases, the Philadelphia Horticultural Society continues to green the lots. There's a lot of natural history of what the lots can go through over time, and that's what we're trying to pick up with these Street View audits. Non-trivially, you have scenarios where there's a lot that's fully fenced off, and you come back later and it's fenced off with a different fence, and so in some cases, we really can't learn very much about these lots over time at all. But there are a lot of things that you can see off of Street View. We took advantage of some work that a previous study had done in Chicago to build an environmental audit protocol looking at things like, has the lot been redeveloped? Is it even still there? How are the sidewalk and the pavement? What do the growing things look like? Are there fences? Are there other structures? Are there signs of things like ornamentation or art that indicate that people are beautifying the lot for their own within the community? On the flip side, is there litter or vandalism or dumping? Are people storing things? Are there indications of use like grills, like sports equipment, other signs of community use? And we decided to try out a test question on just sort of generally how well does this look cared for to you? Do we need all of this nuance, or are the holistic signs good enough? And just let me know if you're interested in doing this in your own case. We're happy to share the protocol. So there are a couple of tricky pieces. The world is never as clean as we hope for. Most importantly, in the initial randomization, there is contamination of the trial. This is not contamination in the sense that the lots are contaminated with environmental hazards, but with a randomized trial, over you randomize some people or some groups to treatment and some to no treatment. But of course, all of these lots had to be eligible for treatment to enter the trial, which means they were on the lot rolls of the Philadelphia Horticultural Society. So there were concerns that the lots that were randomized to control might have been intervened on by the Philadelphia Horticultural Society after the trial ended. And in fact, since the trial showed a positive effect, it would arguably be unethical not to. And so it turns out we wanted to develop a natural course sample to sort of look at some what could have happened to lots that were not on that same inventory list. And so we found a list of lots that had demolitions on them on Open Data Philly and selected a set where they'd been demolished for safety reasons. The idea for safety reasons here being that a lot that's or a building that's demolished in order to be redeveloped is a different scenario than a building that's demolished because of public nuisances. The lot is more likely to remain vacant. So this is our sort of natural course sample. The second wrinkle that I want to dive into a little bit here is what is a lot? What is a land parcel type lot? This looks like one lot to a viewer, but it's actually 4 land parcels looking on Google Maps. And so in the initial randomized trial, this was 4 lots that got randomized to treatment, or within one cluster, 4 lots that got randomized to treatment or control. And so that's a real challenge for the Street View approach because this looks like one lot and you can't ask someone, and the lots are not, the components of the lot are not independent typically. Like this section over here has pretty much the same look as this section over here, not coincidentally because they flow towards each other. So in order to do this work, we had to redefine the lot clusters to be adjoining parcels that look like one lot on Street View. And so in the original randomized trial, there were 6 parcels that were considered one cluster. We split this into the 2 contiguous groups, one that were those 2 parcels and one that were those 4. There were some challenges completing the lot audits. Ultimately, 2 undergrad researchers from the University of Washington and 3 Philadelphia-based community researchers completed the audits. This was a collaborative process. The community researchers were incredibly helpful in protocol development and talking through sort of when you look at something. When you look at a picture on Street View and you're looking for, is there a building there or not, it's very simple. If you're looking for, is this a garden or not, it's challenging. So we had weekly-ish meetings to try to resolve these tricky judgment calls and decide whether a bunch of flowers in a flower pot counted as a garden. Your thoughts, welcome. But not now, not till I'm done. So in the end, we had about 3,000 lot images, about 500 lots with about 6 images per lot. All of the auditors completed a reliability subsample of about 200 of those lots, and then we split the remaining 2,800 across auditors as time was available to do the audits. As it turns out, 2 of our auditors did not have time to complete more than the reliability sample, and one of the others was frequently out of sync with the other 3 in the inter-rater reliability samples. And so we ultimately limited ourselves to data from the 2 auditors, one from the University of Washington and one a Philadelphia community member, whose data were the most reliable with each other, if there was systematic error, they were systematic in the same way. We recoded a bunch of things. So it turns out when you ask someone, is the grass condition here poor, fair, or good? There is some, you might be able to agree that that's really poor condition grass, but fair grass versus good grass, that came out way more weed oriented than I meant it to. Although I guess poor grass is weed, anyway. Okay, point is, in order to, we needed to do some recoding to make the data reliable. And so for example, we combined fair quality turf with good quality turf in one item and left poor quality turf as a different piece. And similarly, some of the rare rare items could be mutually exclusive. If you imagine that a lot has been set up for gardening, you don't expect someone to set up a soccer goal in the same spot. And so some of the mutually exclusive and rare items we combined into one, sort of indicators of generalized community investment for community use. So at the end of the day, this gave us a fairly reliable set of indicators. As a reminder, the kappa scores above about 0.5 are pretty good. Above 0.8 are, how did you even ever get that? Most of our items of things we're looking for, it turns out it's pretty easy to tell if there's a fence. But some other things like, is there a garden, are a little bit more complicated, like deciding whether something's garden space or not is challenging. So we have these data that capture some of the nuances of what's present and absent, but we're interested in sort of turning all of these indicators into one score because scoring makes science easier, and also because we don't actually, at some level, all of these things are going to be measured with error, and we'll have a more reliable take on the indications of lot care if we can combine them. So following the logic of latent variable modeling, we treat lot care as a latent variable that is reflected with error in whether the grass is in good condition, the trees are well kept, the fence is well kept, et cetera. So what this looks like in practice is an item response theory model, which is the same thing that it was used to calculate your GRE score, but not with lot audits involved, where you basically have an item which, for each item, so this one is well-maintained grass, the model fits a logistic curve that says if your sort of latent level of lot care, which is equivalent to your math skill, is somewhere, is high. If you're at this end of the spectrum, then we would expect that the grass would be well-maintained. If you're at this end of the latent spectrum, we would expect that the grass would not be well-maintained. And this series of logistic curves, which can be fit to the model, could be used in sort of a Bayesian inference way to back into the underlying score that was most likely to result in the indicators that you expected, or that you observed, rather. So here we have a curve for well-maintained grass that suggests that, in general, lots that are high levels of care are likely to have well-maintained grass. Lots that are medium levels of care, it's unclear. By comparison, well-maintained fences were similarly likely to be present, but the logistic curve has less of a steep slope. It doesn't covary as well with the other items, and that suggests it's not as good at discriminating the well-cared-for lot from the poorly cared-for lot. Also for orientation, lack of dumping, so that is to say there isn't garbage dumped on the lot, is a less severe indicator of lack of care. That is to say, lack of dumping doesn't tell you the lot's really cared for, it's just that dumping tells you the lot's really uncared for. So the curve looks a little bit different. Taking all of our items together, which I don't expect you to sort of work your way through, the similar logistic curves of all of these items suggest to us that we're capturing one construct. That is, the probability, if there is any decoration or art, you're probably somewhere up here, and it's likely that you also have well-maintained grass, well-maintained trees, well-maintained fences, and so on. This, as a whole, the scale ends up with an internal consistency score of about 0.95, which is pretty great. And so that allows us to sort of assign a score to each lot over time. So I want to give you a sense of what this looks like. Here, this lot, as of about 2008, was recently demolished, and our score is somewhere above the median because it's not deeply uncared for, but as weeds build up over time, the score drops down. And then by 2016, there's a community garden, and the score has come up quite a bit, and this is somewhere in the 2020s, there are even further indicators to care that sort of increase the score. That's not the overall scenario necessarily. Some lots move around more. In this one in 2009, the trees were overgrown. A little bit later, it's cleared but not fully treated. By 2014, it has new grass and a fence, probably the Horticultural Society's clean and green treatment, but by 2024, there's been some minor dumping. The fence is a little bit worn. and it's not in as clean a shape. So this gives us this ability to sort of score the lot over time. And we will use this going forward to do some contamination-adjusted intent-to-treat analyses of the long-term effects of randomization, explore the contextual determinants of CARE scores, sort of what is it that makes some of the lots well-treated and not, and then get into G methods to kind of look at what the effect of a blip's worth of lot care is on violence over time. So this project was funded by Arnold Ventures. But really, it was the work of a whole bunch of people, many of whom are in this room, and that's what I got.